Hi. Hi. It's an exciting day, isn't it? So exciting season. I trust you have had a good week or having good times. And here am I again, Dr. Ness, coming to your space after I know you've just press play, so you're ready to listen, ready to partake in this conversation. I want to continue this conversation transition from self-educating to instructional. We're looking at child's development, and I'm hoping to help us to realize how to minimize, to alleviate violence within schools and among children, basically. Because I don't want to just say it's happening just in schools. I mean, we have targeted within our own community and several communities throughout the world that where children working really coming against each other in schools. And we have this big thing about bullying and school violence. But it also comes within the home or with sibling rivalry. We have with communities. And so I want to help us to see within those dynamics how to really help our children and to recognize how much we must be involved. We take it for granted that the child is growing up with some kind of intellectualism or intelligence that is maybe natural, default? No. It has, that's why we have the word nurture. We have to know what nurturing is and how to work that. And I want to go back a little bit into what in the last broadcast we're talking about the child's coming into these different domains from home to kindergarten, from kindergarten to primary, from primary to secondary. And then, of course, the child goes into tertiary or to do the work. And it's important to see how the child is, let me use the word traumatized, by the differences from home, where there's that nurture from parents and there's that kind of protection and security. And you put me into spaces where I don't know most of the people, rather 99% of the people, especially the person who is given instruction that is called miss or teacher or sir, and I don't know who you are, I never had you before, but I have to learn to work with you. And I don't think it's good sometimes when they do not learn to work with the children, because the children becomes naughty, indisciplined, all these words are used, and the child is being reported to parents, and the parents interpret that negatively. And then so all these things happen from kindergarten to primary school. And the space in primary school gets bigger. The children are more, and they don't even understand the word students, but they're students, and they have to learn to work now with policies, and that comes from governments and is established through certain entities. And then we go into secondary school, and the space gets bigger again, and the child is much more challenged in terms of more classrooms and more people coming to teach them. Before it was just one person, now it's 11, 13 people, especially in the first year in some islands. And then you could go on with space of football fields and tennis courts and, oh my gosh, and cafeterias and toilets that are many, not just 2 or 3. So there's a lot happening in the brain that we are not aware of. And I want to really help us to define and develop that kind of consciousness as parents, as adults, as guardians, how to really manage our children and help them realize that they're not naughty, they're not indifferent, but they're really struggling. And so if we don't handle it properly, and if we keep telling them they're bad, and they keep saying, but I didn't, or I don't know, and we say, oh, you mean, we're impatient, they're going to carry that negativity back and say, you see me? I want to make sure it's right, so if anybody hit me, I go hit it back. I want to let mommy know I was offending myself. But so the violence is real, especially also if they're seeing violence at home with some disruptive families, and families may have issues among themselves as spouses and guardians, etc. So we have to see the bigger picture. I want us to really appreciate those kinds of situations that are real and that continue to work itself out. I want us to appreciate the fact that When a child is at that age of 0 to 3, the child is really encouraged in terms of learning to trust environments and mommy and daddy and siblings, etc. And then they start establishing their own autonomy. The first word is no. No. You wonder where that came from. But don't forget that our very nature comes from a very negative position. And for those of us who would quote the Bible, we are born in sin and shaped in iniquity. So that, negativity is where our language comes. And we are trying to find how best we can work into this environment. And I'm learning to capture my environment. I'm now not in the person's arms, I'm not creeping on the ground, I'm walking, and I'm beginning to talk. So there's communication. And I'm beginning to sense now when I'm told something, how do I respond to that? How do I not respond? So it's important for me to really capture those real essence. I shouldn't say essence, those real virtues or characteristics that are real to me. And then child is put into that space of kindergarten, really finding its own identity in terms of learning how to work out my autonomy. And here am I being told not to. Or I'm controlled by sit, stand, put your head on the desk, time for sleep, time for eat. I want to do what I want to do it. And that's what the child is. That's why no comes in. So that there's a sense of wanting to establish what I am doing as what should be done. But yet I am finding myself doing something that I don't want to do by somebody telling me what to do. So that immediately there's that kind of resistance to instruction. I accustomed to doing my own thing. I'm accustomed to eating what I wanted. I was doing that since I was in the womb. I ate what I wanted when I got home. When I got home out of the womb, I still ate what I wanted to. I cried when I wanted to. I made a fuss about attention, and I was attended to. Now I'm making a fuss and nobody's listening to me. And so, excuse me, what's going on here? It's a whole new paradigm. And I have to work that out in my brain. And so that where I'm working that out, it's not at home. Maybe the first 2 years, maybe let's say 2.5 to 3.5 years. But after that, I want to get in my control. I'm losing it. My brain is saying one thing, but my environment is making me full of shame. I have to feel that I'm doing something wrong because I'm beaten, I'm flogged, or I'm bawled at. I'm told, hey, don't do that. Be careful, don't run, oh my goodness. But in my brain, I'm hearing something else. I want to discover. I try playing with new things. I'm playing with mud, I'm playing with pasta seeds, I want to help mommy stir a pot. So, no, you can't do that. So I go and I start writing on the walls. I want to create, I want to paint. So the child wants to learn, but the child is shut down. And then after that, the child is still growing. And I think sometimes we have to remember the child is growing, the child is developing. How do we work that development forward and work out that thing so that by the time the child reaches 5 and gets into primary school, the child wants to use his own initiative. The child is learning that as against being guilty of something that I really didn't do or didn't know how to do. So we're not talking here about schoolwork. We're not talking here about maths and arithmetic and language arts and all those nice things that we use these days. We're talking about self-development. That is not being interpreted and in terms of how we treat the child. We are more concerned about, did you do homework? Are you not doing homework? Did you get all right? Did you get all wrong? We are not looking at that apart from educating and the child going to school, the child is also developing psychosocially. How do we work that? Because that's important in terms of the education. So if I am free in my psychosocial environment to learn and to find new things, it's easy for me to learn maths and language arts and social studies because I'm able to apply and interpret in terms of who I am with these things rather than learn something and then apply it to a behavior And that you tell me who I am because I am not getting it right. So am I not done so stupid? Oh, no, I am not done. No child is done. No child is stupid. We all have intelligence. But it's how it's programmed in terms of allowing the child to develop that and then go into the school to bring some order in terms of learning how to enhance. And we have to come to that that possibility in terms of how it is managed and how it is realized. And I want us to be very much aware that primary school age is very important, especially the first 3 years, 5, 6, 7. It's very important for that child to learn that. But at last, you're in a classroom with 27 children. You have time to get up, go to the bathroom. I can't go to the bathroom when I want to go to the bathroom. Don't go now. We wait. I have to ask permission to go to the bathroom. Oh my gosh. And I have to wait for lunch. I can't have lunch when I want to. I have to come back from lunch. I have to do this. So the child continues to feel disadvantaged in terms of who she is. Parents, we need to be aware of this. We need to be aware of our own responsibility to find that child and put that child in the space where the child can learn. As the child grows, the child becomes much more industrious. I remember when my child came, one of my children came with such an industrious idea. I was so old-schooled that I prohibited him from working his initiative and telling him that it was not the right thing to do. It was a couple of years later that I recognized, hey, Kenneth, that was wrong. You should have acknowledged that the child was thinking, that he had some intellectual brainstorming, and he came up with a brilliant idea. And it was an idea to make money. At 5. I didn't think that was possible. And I know that's why I'm saying that I want to help the present-day parent. That when your children come with ideas, how do I help them recognize that they have the capacity to think and to be proactive and to engage in this whole concept of industry and bringing forth that kind of creativity to the fore. So that when the child is creative and the child wants to play football or do music, some of us, we say we can't afford it. Some of us say we do not know that that's right for the child. The child will be distracted from schoolwork. But the child needs that psychosocial development in order to help the schoolwork. It is not the other way around. Because the child was first put in a psychosocial environment from baby. There was no education then, there was no school. The child was growing, your child was growing happily from 0, from day 1, all the way to 3 years, learning and developing out in that psychosocial context. There was no math and English and arts and nothing. They was just growing. So all of a sudden, that comes to a halt. So by the time the child reaches 8, 9, that child is naturally getting to a place where those ideas, those natural skills are being developed and being coming to the fore, to the mind. I want to get engaged. I want to do something. Oh, wait, no. You have to look towards that examination that puts you into secondary school. So the child definitely is not going to have a psychosocial perspective by the time the child gets to secondary school. The child is going to want to be in secondary school, yes, but that's part of what the psyche is. How do I manage? But I can't be free, although I find the freedom to be me and to engage in a constant working of how I'm developing naturally with my thoughts. I am either going to feel inferior. And that's where a lot of people today who are adults, they are who say they have low self-awareness, which you call low self-esteem. There's no self-awareness, there's no identity. Because it didn't start as an adult. It started way back in primary school when you were told that what you do was not good enough. And mommy sometimes threw away your design. You took matchsticks, you took palettes, I remember Sharon taking paddle sticks in my time and shaving it and making jockey, and we go to the canal, and that was a means of enterprise. They were creating with their hands, out of their brain. And so how do we maximize that kind of industry, that kind of initiative, that kind of creativity that is important for the child next 10 years, but by the time the child reaches in their 20s. And so that it's important for us not to allow the child to feel inferior, not to allow the child to feel that their decisions are not at all right or real, that they're not, fine and bringing oneself into a place where they're capable of making some real decisions that are established for themselves. One of the things that is important is that I don't know, for me, the child's becoming dependent, or rather, and it's not that, you're afraid of the child being dependent and being inferior or being inactive. So the child is withdrawing. Yes, the child is withdrawing. Why? Because we're not bringing the child out to the fore. We're not showcasing your child. And so that you need to learn how to showcase your child, how to bring that child to a place where you say, yes, what you're doing, and I say it is not about the maths and the language arts and the social science. It's about the child's psychosocial development. Are you following this? I hope you are. So the child is not going to be withdrawn. The child is not going to be pushing themselves away because they don't want to hear what they're doing is wrong. They're not going to hide. I remember myself, and when we were growing up, I had it too at this age. Go to your room. This is big people talk. But how would we learn to talk if we don't learn from the big people? So I would go into my bedroom and put pillows and everything, and I would create a whole classroom. But I can say classroom now, but then it was just so that I would give them names. And I would speak, and I suppose it worked good for me. I became an orator. I could talk. Because I practiced that since I was 5, 6, being told, go to your room. This is big people talk. So we have to not say, go to your room. Let the child learn. And we too have to recognize that as adults, we have to control our language, because sometimes we want to say things we know children should hear. What it is that they should hear? Tell me. Anyway, that's a next conversation. So we need to look at the whole concept of how we are bringing these children into that place of teenage life. How do we bring them into that secondary school environment and allow them to define what is good for them? Are you following that yet? Are you with? We need to get them to that place where they're beginning to find that ego identity. They want to be. The girls are looking at themselves and their bodies and making sure the guys want to get a little muscular and handsome looking. And all we want them to do is to pass exams. Hi, is anybody out there? Are you still there? Don't press pause yet, Don't press end yet either. We want them to pass exams, and they want to live. They want to be nice. And a lot of the violence in schools, I'm realizing, is how people respond to each other. You're ugly. You're not good. You're thin. You're fat. Because they're looking for that type of identity, wondering how I will progress in my future. Because do remember that most people are looking for children and marriage. So I should say the other way around, for marriage and children. Because these days it's more children than marriage. But we want to get marriage and children. We want to make sure we have that family institution to carry out, to make sure we build our nation with some kind of identity, fostering that community spirit. So it's important for us to really appreciate what's happening in that secondary school. It's a vital thing. How do we have that ego identity? How do we know that we can be represented or even represent ourselves? Because other than that, we become alienated. We become nobody. You're either bright and be famous or dance and be nobody. The in-between doesn't work. And teachers in your report say things that sometimes are not encouraging. Parents say things about their children because they want them only to have education, not realizing, and I'm saying this thing again, is a psychosocial development that we need to look at. How do we work in this adolescence? With adolescence, there's hormonal changes. There's voice change. There's hair, facial hair. There's puberty, which has to do with sexual organs developing. The boys are coming to that place where they find themselves with erections. Ladies begin to have emotions when they see certain anatomies. So that it's important for us to really listen and work our children. So they're going through all those natural emotions. But yet, we don't understand that that's important. We still want them to get the A's and the B's. Sorry, A's only. We want them to make sure they get the ones and the twos. Ones only. But no, what about their lifestyle? What about who they are? What about who they're becoming? We need to zero in on that. We need to pay attention to that. So I really want us to take a moment and say, hey, I need to lay back a little bit. Bring my child to me and say, hey, how are your hormones? How are they working? How are you feeling today? What are you creating? Do you want to play basketball? How's piano? How's your art? Come cook with me. Let's go out for dinner. Let's have a laugh. Stop studying. Let's go outside. Could you do those things that would help bring the child into a place of identity and understand that I am worth living? Yes? Is that good for you? We can talk about this a little more, but this is my topic wants to help you to see if we can manage their psychosocial components in terms of their behavior and their emotions. We are going to have less violence, less bullying at the teenage life in that sphere, in that time zone, so that it will diminish the murdering and killing by those people who are in their 20s, late teens, 20s and 30s. So we can't just have the adult change their brain like that. They have to come back to where they lost it and regain it. And that's what I'm hoping to do during the series and working with you. Before we go, I want to help us to really to understand what the word succeed means, what does success mean. It is not about the child gaining those subjects in that to get from secondary school to tertiary to the world of work. Because I want you to know, people who go to work, their qualifications hire them, but their behavior fires them. So you want to stop that behavior. People getting fired because they don't know how to relate, they don't know how to talk, they don't know how to be, they have their own agenda. That's not just happening because they don't have understanding of culture. That's happening because since 5, 6 going up, that has been the eroded absence of how to behave within a sphere of education yet, but identifying mostly that I am the student. Education is not the student. I am the student. Your child is the student. Your boy or girl is the student. So, Dr. Knight sign off here. We will continue this conversation in the next broadcast. But I want you at this point to just breathe and say, hey, darling, you're a sweet child. Do good. Behave well. Love well.